ਇੱਕ ਓੰਕਾਰ ਸਤਿਨਾਮ ਕਰਤਾ ਪੁਰਖ ਨਿਰਭਉ ਨਿਰਵੈਰ ਅਕਾਲ ਮੂਰਤ ਅਜੂਨੀ ਸੈਭੰ ਗੁਰ ਪ੍ਰਸਾਦਿ ਜਪ ਆਦਿ ਸਚ ਜੁਗਾਦਿ ਸਚ ਹੈ ਭੀ ਸਚ ਨਾਨਕ ਹੋਸੀ ਭੀ ਸਚ ਡੰਡੌਤ ਬੰਧਨ ਅਨੇਕ ਬਾਰ ਸਰਬ ਕਲਾ ਸਮਰੱਥ ਡੋਲਨ ਤੇ ਰਾਖੋ ਪ੍ਰਭੂ ਨਾਨਕ ਦੇ ਕਰ ਹੱਥ। ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ ਜੀ ਕਾ ਖਾਲਸਾ ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ ਜੀ ਕੀ ਫਤਿਹ। So Nishan UK, which is an organization that represents all the London Sikh Socs, have decided to get together to organize an Anand Karaj course which will run for 4 episodes. So why are we doing this course? Recently in the media there's been a lot of misconceptions and controversy regarding interfaith marriages, and there's been a lot of different opinions on this. So what we're hoping to do is to show what the gurus have told us in the lava, and then to relate this to the interfaith debate to get a better view of the Sikh point of view on this. So the course outline is as follows. In the first episode we'll talk about the first lav, and we'll go through the history of the Anand Karaj. In the second episode we'll talk about the second lav and talk about the kurmai, which is the engagement events. The third episode we'll talk about the third lava and the Anand Karaj, which is the wedding day itself. And in the final episode we'll talk about the final lav, and we'll go through and discuss the interfaith marriages and sort of present the Gurmat viewpoints on this. In terms of interaction, if you have any questions or any comments or any queries, the best way to contact us would be to leave comments below, and another way is also to leave any comments on the Nishan Facebook page. In terms of getting responses out, we will most likely discuss some of the questions or topics or issues raised in the next episode, or we can also send out written responses during the week and publish them on the Facebook page. No two Indian weddings are the same. They're always different sort of cultural rituals or different things people do, and a lot of these things are not technically part of the Sikh point of view. And if you guys have had any, if you've attended any weddings recently, or if you have any questions about different rituals, then please send those through in the comments as well, and we can give a video response to which of these events or aspects are in line with sort of Sikhi, and which have been sort of passed on through culture. In this episode we've talked about the introduction to this course, and what we'll go on to now is the history of the Anand Karaj, before we then discuss the first lav. So before the Guru's time period, India was, and some would argue is still, controlled by the Brahmins. So the Brahmins had monopoly over all aspects of life, which includes the social, the political, the economic, and they had their hands in a lot of events. So they would be involved in birthing ceremonies, naming ceremonies, the Janeo ceremony, marriage ceremonies and death ceremonies. All of these gave them a great influence on the people, and also provided them with a great economic advantage. So before the Gurus, what the Hindus would normally do would be to perform the wedding ceremony with the vedh as the central aspect. So while they were getting married, they would then have a brahman reciting the marriage Bhani, and then they would then walk around the Veds Now, a lot of places they didn't really have the Veds, or they didn't feel the Veds could be respected enough, so they then moved on to walking around a fire. So when you watch a lot of, if you watch a lot of documentaries or films where they have Hindu weddings, you'll see a lot of sort of fires being placed in the center and people walking around them. And worst case scenario, if they couldn't get a Ved or they couldn't get a fire, then they would get the Brahman to sit in the middle and then walk around them while they recited the wedding baani. So in terms of Sikhi, Guru Nanak Sahib Ji started off by having a very completely different view on how marriages should be done. So when their marriage was set up, the family wanted them to be done as the tradition stated, that they need to get a Brahman and they need to get a fire. But Guru Nanak Sahib Ji made it very clear that for them, the fire and the Brahman weren't the most important aspects of their life. There was actually the Shabad that was. So what Guru Nanak Sahib Ji did was they wrote the Mool Mantra down on a parchment, placed it on a raised platform, covered it with a ramala, and they then did parikrama around the Mool Mantra. And that's how they based their marriage, around the Shabad. During the third Guru Ji's time, Guru Ramdas Sahib Ji, when their daughter Bibi Bhani Ji were going to marry the fourth Guru, Guru Ramdas Sahib Ji, the third Guru, Guru Ramdas Ji, performed the wedding ceremony for them. So what they did was they sat down and recited the Anand Sahib while Guru Ramdas Ji, Bibi Bhani Ji walked around them. And it was since then that the wedding ceremony got the name Anand Karaj. It is from the time of when they used to recite the Anand Sahib during the part. So after Guru Ramdas Sahib Ji got the Gurgaddi, there is a sakhi from the Damdami Taksal that talks about how the official lava were sort of set up and written, and what the background story for that is. So the Taksals say that during the time of the fourth Guru, in the Amritsar district, there was a Gursikh family who wanted to get their daughter married, and they had gone to the Brahman, they had organized all the wedding details, and the Brahmins had asked for a set fee, and they had agreed that. On the wedding day, the Brahman noticed that both families were very well dressed, and the Brahman got a bit more greedy. So on the wedding day he said, I'm not going to continue with this wedding unless you pay me this much extra. And the family didn't have the money to pay the Brahmins, so they sort of didn't really know what to do. So they went and visited Guru Ramdas Sahib Ji and said, this is our concerns. We're sort of getting ripped off by the Brahman here, and he's taking advantage of us. Can you help us out? So it's at that moment that Guru Sahib Ji decided that we should have our own wedding ceremony, and it's at that moment where they recited the four lava, and the Gursikh Parvar's children who were getting married, they then did the parikrama, the walk around Guru Ramdas Sahib Ji while they recited the four lava. And that is the story of how the modern day Anand Karaj sort of was created. Okay, so we'll just read through the part once. Suhi Mahalla Chautha Har Pehlari Lav Parvirti Karam Driraya Balaram Jio Bani Brahma Vedh dharam dhrirahu paap tjaya Balaram Jio dharam dhrirahu har naam dheaavahu simrit naam dhrirahu satgur gur pooraa aaraadhahu sabh kilvikh paap gavaya sahaj anand hua vadpagi man har har meetha laya jan keh nanak lav pehli aaramb kaaj rachaya सहज आनंद हुआ वडभागी मन हर हर मीठा लाया जन कह नानक लाभ पहले आरंभ काज रचाया. So the best way to go through the the love is to break it down into smaller sections. So we'll start with the title and then work through each line, each pankti, and sort of see what sort of teachings Maharaj is telling us and passing on to us. So first we'll just have a small discussion about what a love is. So the most common definition of a love is that it means a parikrama. So it is the act of walking around something, and within Sikhi that would be the Guru Granth Sahib Ji. If we look at Hindu mythology, the stories are that Ganesh was asked by his parents, and his brother were there as well. Ganesh's parents asked both brothers to have a race, to walk around and to run around the world and to see who would get back first. So as soon as they said start, one of the brothers, he ran off, and Ganesh, he just walked around his parents. So when he walked around, he sat down, he said, oh, I've finished, I've done it now. So his parents asked, oh, we told you to run around the world and get back. You just walked around us, what's that all about? So the story says that Ganesh told them that, in my opinion, you are my world. And tracking back in history, through Indian culture, doing any sort of parikrama is showing everyone that the person or the entity or whatever you're doing parikrama of is the most important thing to you and is the center of your life. So sometimes when you walk into Gurdwara now, you'll see loads of people matha teknaing and then walking around the Guru Granth Sahib matha teknaing again, and they sort of show the Sangat, they show themselves, they show Vaheguru, that for them the Guru Granth Sahib Ji is the most important part of their life. Throughout Bhai Gurdas Ji's Vana, we've got a couple of examples of why the parikrama is important. So one quote we've got here is Hasana Mol Gurudev Sevaka Safala Charana Mol Pradashana Karanaka. So Bhai Gurdas Ji is saying that the feet are only worthwhile or only useful if they're used to do the parikrama of the Guruji. Another sort of meaning or translation of the word love is a spiritual stage. So some people believe that the four lava represent four different spiritual stages of a Sikh's life as well. Moving on to the title, Suhi Mahalla Chautha. So this baani is written in Rag Suhi. Now Rag Suhi is associated with happiness. Musicians say that it reminds them of the color red. There's something called Suhiya, is when a woman bows down to an elderly man. So it's got loads of different meanings or sort of definitions of it. Rag Suhi has a lot of Gurbani that talks about how to live in a household in a worldly sense, but it also talks about how to live in a house of Guru Nanak Sahib Ji. So how to be a good Gursikh as well as a good family member. Moving on to the word Mahalla. Recently there's been a lot of misconceptions about how this word is supposed to be pronounced. So a lot of people say they should be pronounced Mehla. They say that Mahalla is masculine and Mehla is a female version of the word, and they're saying that all the gurus were Istri Sloops of Vaheguru, that Vaheguru is our one true Lord husband and we're all soul brides, and that's why the Gurbani should be read in sort of a female context. But it doesn't really work out because all the numbers that follow afterwards are all pronounced in a masculine way. So the word so the number that follows this love is Mahalla Chautha. Now if you wanted to do this in a female version, you would have to call it Mehla Chauthi, which doesn't really happen and which doesn't really make sense if you look at Gurbani. So what we need to remember is the word is pronounced Mahalla, and when it says Jyotha, that refers to the fourth Guru, Guru Ramdas Sahib Ji. So they wrote this Shabad in the Amritsar area. Alright, we'll go through the first lav now, Pankti by Pankti. So we've got Har Pehlari Lav Parvirti Karm Driraya Balaram Jio. So Maharaj is telling us, is introducing the lava to us and saying, oh, the following Panktiya will explain what sort of karam, what sort of life, what sort of actions we should perform as a married couple. So moving on to the second line, we've got Bhani brahmaa vedh dharam drirahu paap tajaya balaram jio. Now, my interpretations of this line would be slightly different to what's shown on the Sikhi to the max. Bhani brahmaa vedh. Now, Brahma can also be interpreted as another word for Vaheguru. So, Bhani brahmaa vedh dharam drirahu. Dharam means way of life, and drirahu means to instill, to incorporate, to embed within yourself. So my interpretation of this would be that Bhani brahmaa vedh dharam dhrirahu. So the scriptures or the teachings or the way of life that focuses on Vaheguru, those are the things we need to incorporate within our lives. Paap tajaya balaram jio. And by doing this, paap, which are your sins, tajaya, these will be dispelled, these will disappear. So we'll just quickly go into a bit more depth about what dharam is, what is the way of life that a Sikh should follow. So looking at it from a simple basic point of view, the lifestyle of a Sikh should be that they need to take Amrit from the Panj Pyare, they need to adopt the 5 Ks, they need to watch out for the 4 cardinal sins, which is cutting your hair, taking drugs and alcohol or any other intoxications, adultery and eating meat, and also they will need to ensure that the Guru Granth Sahib is the main focus of their life. If we look within Gurbani, we get some quotes that give us a better understanding of what the best form of dharam is. So one quote is Sarb dharam meh shrestha dharam har ko naam jap nirmal karam. So Maharaj is saying is that out of all the dharams, out of all the ways of life, the best one is the one where har ko naam jap, where we meditate and do simran of Vaheguru's name, and nirmal karma, where we perform pure actions. Now, what would we consider to be a pure action? A pure action is anything that is selfless. So something that's not fueled or driven by the panchachor, which is kam, krodh, lobh, moh, ahankar, which is lust, anger, greed, attachment and pride, and which isn't driven by our own ego, our home. So if we do seva, if we help the poor, if we help the needy, if we do seva of the Guru, if we serve the Sangat, they are all considered pure actions. Moving on to the next line. Dharam drirahu har naam dheaavahu simrit naam dhrirahu. So Maharaj is saying that after we've incorporated the dharam, the pure actions, the way of life, into our hearts, into our lives, we then need to focus on the simran. So dharam drirahu har naam dheaavahu. We need to do the naam simran. Simrit naam dhrirahu. And that needs to be an essential part of our life. So how should we do simran? The Gurus have blessed us with different mantras. When we take Amrit from the Panch Pyare, we get the Mool Mantar and we get the Gur Mantar. Now, Bhai Gurdas Ji states that Vaheguru Gur Mantar hai, jape hau main koi. So Vaheguru is our Gur Mantar, And when we do naam japning of this, our ego will be controlled, our ego will be erased. So keeping that in mind, we'll just mention a couple of different naam simran techniques that can be adopted by people, because a lot of people don't really know or not too sure, haven't been exposed to the different techniques of naam simran and not really sure how to sort of take the first steps. So we'll just give a short overview of the different things you can do. So with the mind being clogged with past anxieties and sort of future trepidations, and with our mind sort of focusing on so many different things, it's very difficult to sort of get it to calm down and to get it to a peaceful state. So a good way to sort of learn how to control the mind is to get it to focus on one thing. So one example would be just focusing on the visual aspects. So if you focus on a picture, if you focus on the Guru Granth Sahib, or if you imagine an image, or if you imagine a word, or the words Vaheguru or Gurbani in your mind, and you just focus on that while you do your Simran. Another way is to associate your Simran with walking. So what you can do is, every time you're taking a step, you can say Vahe, and every time you take the other step, you say Guru, or you can just associate each step with Vaheguru. So what you're doing is, essentially every time you're walking, you're just consciously thinking about Vaheguru every time you're taking a step. The third way is to do it through sound. So to do this, what you would normally do is you would start by saying Vaheguru very loud, and after you've sort of got comfortable with that, then you sort of go a bit more quiet and a bit more quieter, and when you get to a stage where you're very comfortable with it and you find it easy to focus, then you sort of bring it all the way down just to repeat Vaheguru in your mind. Another way is what some people refer to as Satgur Simran. So it's about focusing on your breath. So what you can do is, when you're breathing in, you can focus on the words Vahe, or you can say the words Vahe, and when you're breathing out, you can say or focus on the words Guru. So what will happen is, every time you're breathing, you'll be focusing on Vaheguru. When you look at the more yogi traditions, they talk a lot about the chakras and the body parts. So they'll mention that you can focus on different body parts. So they have something called the third eye, and there's also the dasam dwar, and there's sort of different body parts that you can focus on to help you control your mind. Now the best thing to do would be to try out these different techniques to see which one of them works best for you, and as you progress, to sort of seek out advice from Mahapurush or people that are high spiritual stages, so they can give you hints and tips and tell you what to watch out for. Some of these do have limits, such as especially the visual Simran, because what you need to remember is that Vaheguru doesn't have a form, so you can't really just do it visually. Vaheguru is beyond the senses, and so it's good. It's a good way to start your Simran, but it is recommended that you sort of move away from that and you focus on the Shabad Naam, and you should focus on the sounds as well. In terms of the point of doing all these techniques, you probably heard a lot of quotes about how 10% of the brain is devoted to the conscious mind and 90% is devoted to the unconscious mind. This means that consciously we can only focus on 3 or 4 things at the same time, and what the body likes to do, what the brain likes to do, is to get things to become automated. So example would be walking. When you first learn how to walk, you have to consciously move your legs and make a great effort into getting yourself to walk, but over time it becomes an unconscious process and you can just do it normally. Same with breathing. You don't really have to think about your breathing, that just happens automatically. when you're eating, you don't really have to think too much about how you're eating. That just happens automatically. When you're learning how to drive, first is conscious. You have to focus on the pedals and the gears and the steering wheel, but over time that becomes unconscious as well. So what the body is designed to is to sort of practice something for a while and then turn that into an automatic process. So with for example the breathing Simran, if you get enough practice doing the Sanskara Simran, you will automatically think and say Vaheguru every time you take a breath. And the same with the walking, every time you take a step you'll remember Vaheguru. Same with the visual aspects, every time you see a certain word or you see a certain picture you'll think about Vaheguru. Knowing how busy everyone is with their schedules, it's sort of recommended to start off slowly with maybe 5-10 minutes Simran, but to try and increase it and try and keep it consistent. So slowly build it up. A lot of Mahapurush say that a good sort of baseline is to devote 10% of your time for doing naam Simran and for doing seva. So what you would ideally want is to sort of build up your naam Simran to take up about 2-3 hours of your day, and that's a good place to start. Moving on to the next line. Satgur gur pooraa aaraadhahu, sabh kilvikh paap gavaya. Maharaj is saying is you need to worship and adore the true Guru, and when you do this, sabh kilvikh paap gavaya, again all your sins will be removed. All your previous karam, all the things that are trapping you, that are keeping you from being liberated, all those things will disappear if you do the worship and the adoration of a true Guru. Now, Vaheguru can be found in two forms: the Nirgun Swarup, which is the formless, and the Sargun Swarup, which is the visible, or the parts that is within the creation and within everything. So, because it's so difficult to focus on the formless parts of Vaheguru, it will be better for us to focus on the Sargun Swarup initially. So the Sargun Swarup can be found in two forms. The first is the Guruji themselves. So if we look at Gurbani, we've got the line Gur Parmeswar Ek Hai Sab Meh Rahya Samai, that the Guru and Vaheguru are one and the same. So a good way to worship and adore Vaheguru is to worship and adore the Guru Granth Sahib Ji. So the different ways that we can do this involves following the proper satgur, which is respect, and rehet maryada of doing the seva of the Guru. So that is when we do the Chaur Sahib, or if we read the Paat, or if we clean the Darbar Sahib. Now the second form of Sargun form worship is to worship the Sangat, the Sadh Sangat. So another line from Gurbani says, Mil Sat Sangat Khoj Dasai Vich Sangat Har Prabh Vasai Jiyo. That it is within the Sangat that you can also find Vaheguru. That's where Vaheguru resides. So that's why if you look at Sikh history, there's been countless examples of people, of the Gurus themselves, cleaning the jodik, cleaning the shoes of the Sangat, or making langar and feeding the Sangat. So those are the two different forms of Sargun Swarup worship that we can do. Moving on to the next line. Sahaje Anand Hua Vadipagi Mane Har Har Meetha Laya. So after following all these different steps and progressing in our spiritual lives, we'll reach a blissful state of a blissful spiritual state, and our mind will feel that Vaheguru's name is sweet and we'll just want to repeat it all the time. Now, one of the key words here is Vadipagi. that all of this, all these spiritual progressions, it all happens with great fortune. It happens with Gur Prasad, which is with the Guru's Kirpa. So a line from Gurbani is Gur Prasadi Man Vasai Mal Haume Jaye Samay. So it is only with the Guru's Kirpa that you can reach these spiritual stages. And when you realize that, that's how you ensure that your ego is kept under control and that your ego doesn't get involved. Because what will happen to quite a few people is they'll do the naam simran, they'll do the pure actions, they'll make progressions, they'll know they made progress, and they will sort of believe that they're the ones doing it. And when you get to that state, then you sort of take a step back, because then you're forgetting Vaheguru and you think that you're doing all this yourself. So Vaheguru Ji is, and Guru Sahib Ji is reminding us that all of this first love, all of these steps we're taking can only happen with the Guru's Kirpa, with Gur Prasad, with Varpagi, with great fortune. So finishing off the Shabad. Jan keh nanak lav pehli aarambh kaj rachaya. So Maharaj is just closing off the first lav, saying that this is just the first steps we need to take in this life. So just to summarize what we've gone through, Parikrama is the definition of love, and it means to walk around the Guru, and it's a sign of Sikhs making a promise to the Guru that the Guru is the center of their life and that their teachings will be what drives and guides the Gursikhs. So every time we walk around Maharaj during the wedding ceremony, we're basically agreeing to all the different teachings that have been stated in that love. So just summarizing the teachings we went through, Nirmal Karam. So we talked about the importance of pure actions, how doing selfless activities like seva and helping the needy, how that is one of the first steps that we need to agree to and follow. Baani, brahmaa, vedh. We talked about the importance of Gurbani, and looking at the Sakhi with Guru Nanak Sahib Ji as well, we noticed that the Gurbani was made the center of the life, and that's what we need to do as well. So we need to always refer back to Gurbani. When we are making decisions, when we are thinking of doing anything, we should do ardas, and we should get hukamnama, we should get the Guru's wisdom, the Gurmat, and base our actions on that. Maharaj then talked about the importance of doing naam simran. We've gone through the different techniques there are, and what sort of small steps we can take in our lives. And if you have any sort of questions about any of these things, then please write in the comments below or message us on Facebook, and we can sort of clarify anything if you need any more detail. Maharaj then talked about doing worship and adoration of Vaheguru, and because it's so difficult to focus on the Nirgun Swarup, the formless, we've got two forms of the Sargun Swarup. So we've got the Guru Granth Sahib Ji and we've got the Sadh Sangat. So we talked about the importance of worshipping the Guru and serving the Sangat. And finally, Maharaj is reminding us that all this happens with Vadpag, with great fortune, with Gur Prasad, that it's not us doing all this, that at the end of the day it is Maharaj who blesses us with the gifts to do naam, they bless us with the strength to do naam, and at the end of the day they will decide how far we get. And as a Sikh, it is important that we do ardas every day, and we basically beg for the naam and for the right to do seva. So this concludes the first episode on the Anand Karaj course. We talked about the first law, talked a bit about the history. Again, any questions or comments, send them through, and we'll hopefully respond either during the week, or we'll have a verbal discussion or response to it in the next episode. ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ ਜੀ ਕਾ ਖਾਲਸਾ, ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ ਜੀ ਕੀ ਫਤਿਹ।